All right, and welcome back. It won't let me live stream right now. It's telling me I have issues all over the place. So I'm going to premiere this. I'm going to put this out. It's not going to be super long, I hope. What a mess. So let me just explain what I actually am seeing. There is 3 children found in Houston, abandoned, starving to death. They're starving, not to death, but one of them has passed away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover what the police officer had said in the interview, but I'm going to cover somebody else that actually is reporting on this because there's really nobody reporting on this. So I'm stating fair use. I'm not monetized, but I really love the way they put this out. I love the way they put this out. They did a lot of great work to get this out, and I'm going to cover it. And let me see. Give me 1 second, because you guys, this will blow your mind. Give me 1 second. I'm going to queue up the girls. 10 to Life. That's exactly who it is. 10 to Life. Go to her channel. Check her out. She don't hold no punches. She just breaks it all out. Here it is. This is what it is, and that's it. She gets deep into this. I will try to get her a link to her channel. I'll put it in the description as well. But it's 10, number 10 to Life. That's the name of her channel. So give me a second. I want you to hear what she says about this case. I'm not going to play her video. I'm going to play her audio. So give me 1 second here. It screwed me all up by just having this nightmarish stuff going on. So there's not a lot of coverage with people covering this. Except there is some news covering it, but it's mostly in the Houston area. Houston. Anyway, 10 to Life. She covered it. She's going to tell you exactly what happened. Watch this. And thank you, 10 to Life. I had to use your coverage, at least your audio, because it's perfect. You know more about this case than anybody else. I may show you guys a couple of little clips from it. I'm not sure yet. But here we go.
Let's jump right into the details of this horrific case. On Sunday afternoon, police received a call and responded to an apartment complex at 3535 Greencrest, right outside of the Houston area. Upon entering the apartment, the police discovered 3 children who appeared to have been abandoned alongside their 9-year-old sibling whose skeletal remains were next to them. I mean, a truly horrific scene. These remains were not hidden. They were not concealed. They were quite literally next to the siblings as they were sitting there abandoned, alone, starving, and they had their other sibling just decomposing in front of them. How did this happen? Who was responsible? And what the hell is going on? So let's rewind a little bit back to this call which brought the authorities to this horrific scene. And it all stemmed with that phone call on Sunday afternoon where a 15-year-old called the police and said that his 9-year-old brother had been dead for a year and that his body was in the room next to his. I can't even imagine what it must have been like being on the receiving end of that phone call. How do you even believe it? It's unbelievable. A 15-year-old is telling you, hi, I'm abandoned inside an apartment complex and my 9-year-old brother has been dead for a year and his body is next to me. How do you wrap your mind around that? Police arrived to this apartment. Inside they found 3 minors ages 15, 10, and as young as 7. As I mentioned, they were abandoned inside that apartment, and it was said that they were living in absolutely deplorable conditions. The authorities say they did find those remains that were mentioned in the call next to the children, and that it appeared that he had been abandoned there for an extended period of time. And he says, and I emphasize extended, meaning it very well may have been a year or more, as mentioned in that initial phone call. And this is just horrible because who knows how long these children have truly been inside, abandoned in that home, but to be alongside their sibling who they not only see as deceased when this initially happens a year or so ago, but then they see their sibling going through the stages of decomposition for a year. I can't imagine how scarring that must be, and just it's honestly ripped out of a horror movie. I can't imagine. The teenager told the deputies that he had been living inside that apartment with his two siblings for several months, and that it was just them, that they were completely isolated. Two youngest boys appeared malnourished and also showed signs of physical injuries. They were taken to a hospital to be assessed and treated. It was unclear if any of these kids were attending school. Reports have shown that they have been out of school for at least a minimum of a year. So they're trapped in this apartment. No food, malnourished, physical injuries, no school. Who was checking on these kids? How did this go undetected? And we're going to get to that here in a minute because it just enrages me. One of the authorities states they were in there while the body was deteriorating, and he was visibly disturbed as he was giving this statement. And he says in his career he has never seen a scenario like this with such horrific circumstances, and that other members of the sheriff's office were also very troubled by this case. He added that the siblings were apparently fending for each other, and that the 15-year-old was taking care of the two younger children, who, remember, were only 10 and 7 years old. Far too much responsibility, in my opinion, for a 15-year-old to have on his shoulders on his own.
I'm told they range in ages from 15, 10, and 7 years old. They've been here for an extended period of time. At the same time, we also have the skeletal remains of what appears to be a juvenile. It appears to have been there for also an extended period of time. We don't know how long. That'll be part of the forensic investigation. We don't know the exact age, but we anticipate again that it's the skeletal remains for a juvenile. And other than that, right now, it's just very preliminary information. We're trying to identify next of kin to determine exactly what's happened and how we got to this point. But again, a very horrific set of circumstances. And so, very troubled by all this. Our members are troubled by it, but, we're going to make sure we do everything we can and make sure we conduct a thorough follow-up investigation, make sure that the kids are okay. This will be a follow-up investigation involving multiple agencies.
The apartment where the children were found had no power for at least a couple of weeks, and many neighbors, as all of this information was surfacing on Sunday, were outraged and wondering how this could truly go undetected. However, there was then a couple of neighbors who had been bringing the children food and were charging their cell phone for them, and I'm going to get into a few quotes by those neighbors and share my thoughts on that afterwards. One of the neighbors, named Erica Chapman, states, "The first time I saw him, he was sleeping on one of the slides." And she says that she would bring food to the 15-year-old. She said she knew something was wrong because his mother was rarely home, and that she started giving him food 6 months ago. She says that she would come and park and that he would run down and grab noodles, drinks, and chips and run back up. She said that he wouldn't accept cooked meals. He would only take packaged snacks, fruit, and pizza. Now, my first question here is, if you're bringing this 15-year-old food for 6 months because you know that there's something going on, whether there's somebody home or not, to the degree of him needing food and you needing to...
Look, and this is exactly what I was thinking during this research. And when I stumbled across 10 to Life's channel or her video that on this, it just blew me away because it's exactly what I was thinking. Pay attention to what she's about to say.
Supply it for him. Did you keep that information to yourself? Did you call CPS? Did you call somebody? Did you report this? 6 months is a long time to be, I don't care what kind of neighbor you are, how nice you are to them, to be delivering food because you know that they wouldn't be getting sufficient food elsewhere. So why weren't further steps taken? And it wasn't just this neighbor. Trevor Thompson also speaks out, and he says that he would also provide the teenager with food. He described him as paranoid and said that he was afraid of getting poisoned, which is why they would only accept certain food and packaged food. And this makes me suspect that if they are so scared of being poisoned, have they been poisoned in the past as to why they're only accepting packaged food? I can't imagine that somebody would have warned them, only take packaged food, otherwise there's a chance that you could be poisoned, because for somebody to give that warning, they would clearly have to be concerned with their well-being, which if they were abandoned, they weren't concerned with their well-being. So why were they so concerned about being poisoned and making sure that the food they did receive and accept was packaged. Trevor.
Exactly. And there shows you there's two people right there that knew that these kids were by themselves, or at least not eating correctly. Should have drew suspicion. In my eyes, it would have drew big suspicion. This is not right. There's something wrong about this. Let's finish this. I am really upset about this. Hold on.
Thompson goes on to say, a few times I noticed the lights weren't on and it was quiet upstairs, so I figured there was trouble because the parents haven't been there in a while. One day he came and knocked on the door and asked if he could use the phone charger, and we built a bond from there. I started offering him food because I knew he needed more than just a charger. Again, if you see that there's a problem, why aren't you investigating more, intervening, figuring out what the root of this horrific situation is? You know they need food. You know they need a charger, whether it's because they don't have electricity or don't have a charger themselves. Like, why wasn't this followed up on more diligently is my biggest question here. Both Erica Chapman and Trevor Thompson go on to say that they were unaware of the secrets and horror that was happening inside that apartment, and that they didn't even know there were two other brothers living there, and no less one deceased brother living there. They thought it was just the teen.
Did he tell you that he had any brothers?
Never.
Why do you think he didn't tell people he had these brothers?
After finding out what happened yesterday, I think he was more nervous and scared. Hey, are they going to blame me for this? Are my parents going to punish me for this?
Did you like the first piece of that I bought you? He say, what, the first one that we had? And that kind of made me wonder, why would he say we? Because I've always thought he was there by himself.
And I wanted to put that out there so you could see the neighbors that were actually feeding these kids, which I'm glad they were feeding them, but on the other hand, there's a problem. So the problem exists regardless if you're feeding them over a period of time. I don't know, but in my mind, I would question or try to figure something out. I would feed them, of course, but it's crazy. Hold on, let's finish this real quick, because this gets crazier. Wait till you find out how long the deceased brother's been in the house, which they're not reporting on yet. She dropped it. I was going to drop it, but I'm going to let her do it. Here we go.
Still, just the teen or not, clearly there were red flags. I don't understand why it wasn't followed up on. And I know I keep saying that. It just gets to me so badly. The mother of the children, who has been identified as Gloria Williams, as well as her boyfriend, were located late on Sunday night. They were being interviewed by homicide investigators, but on Monday, they were released and not charged. Released and not charged. Now,
did you hear that? They were questioned on Monday. They were questioned and released on Monday. They haven't been there in forever, which you're fixing to hear in a minute. And all of a sudden, they pick them up, find them, question them, and just let them go. Oh, boy. Oh, there's something totally wrong with this. Watch.
This is the part where I'm saying this case still has not received the justice that it needs, because how are you released and not charged? How are there not, at minimum, charges for child neglect, for the remains that were still in the apartment, whether it was an accidental death or not, concealment of remains, whatever is going on, like
abandonment, child abuse. I mean, the list could go on and on and on and on and on. Why was there no charges filed? This does not make sense to me. This absolutely makes zero sense to me.
How are there not any charges in this case? The police found 3 minors who were malnourished, had physical injury, and who were abandoned. On top of that, they found another alleged minor who had been decomposing for nearly a year. How do you just walk from charges and from any sort of accountability for that? Please, if you have the answer, comment and let me know below. As of Monday, the 3 minor children were with CPS and they were in CPS custody, and the agency was seeking emergency custody of these children. And the statement that they gave was, to ensure the safety of the children, the Department of Family and Protective Services is seeking emergency custody of the 3 boys. CPS does have a history with the family. The details of that are still a little bit unclear. However, we do know that there was no active CPS investigation at the time the children were discovered alone in the apartment on Sunday afternoon. So if they had a history with CPS, but there was no active investigation, I understand why there weren't regular checks happening. But again, at that point, I think it's the duty and responsibility of the neighbors to intervene when they see that something is clearly wrong. A removal hearing is now taking place in family court, and that has yet to be scheduled. They're not releasing the names of the 3 children, obviously, because they're minors, but we do know that they are right now in protective custody. Now, my biggest question is, with the alleged neglect, and I say that alleged because even though, hello, the writing is on the wall, I say that because they haven't been convicted or charged with anything, but with the circumstances of the alleged neglect, and again, going back to the remains of their deceased brother, regardless how that death took place, now that the mother and the boyfriend have not been charged, we already know that there is a pattern of them fleeing because they fled the children. They abandoned them with...
Look, I don't know how to wrap my head around this yet. I'm going to cover this story and stay on this story, and well, everybody knows I'm going to research into this in depth. This is mind-blowing to me. How does this kind of stuff actually happen to children? I just don't get it. I don't understand how this can happen.
No electricity, no food, nothing. And next, obviously, without a care for their well-being because they left them there inside the home with their decomposing brother. So what's to say they're not going to flee now? Now that they have been released and not charged, what's to say and who's to say that they're not going to go into hiding or go to Mexico or go somewhere else where they can't be found? They don't have kids.
Exactly. Now that they've been questioned and released, what makes you think that they're not just going to flee? Just take off. Well, we're in some serious trouble here, so maybe we ought to just leave the country. Just doesn't make sense. How can you not have enough love for your children to just leave them? How do people do that? I don't care what situation, what man or woman, or I don't care who you love, whatever the case may be. There's no way you would do. And I'm saying this as a single dad that raised 2 of my children as a single father, gave up my life to make sure they had a life. How can you just leave them alone? Your children, your blood, the mother especially, but the dad too. Come on, man. I had a career in another state, was doing very well. I was doing a lot of cool, crazy stuff, making a lot of money, and came back to get custody of my son and just gave it all away. That's what I did. So this is disgusting to me. How can a parent just not care enough about their children? It's mind-blowing to me.
They're responsible for, not that they did initially, I guess, but now that the kids are with protective custody, they're not court ordered anywhere. So what are the next steps from here? I'm really eager to know what you guys think about this case. Please comment below. Let me know how you think that the mother and the boyfriend were released without being charged. I'm very curious to know your thoughts there. And let me know your thoughts on this case in general. How did we get to this point? Why didn't the 15-year-old call sooner? Why did it take a year to call? Were they scared?
How is it that a human body dies and it takes a year for the 15-year-old to call the police or anybody else do anything about this? This makes no sense to me. This is absolutely just bonkers in my head. How's this even happen? I'm just lost with all this. Let's see what this developing story here is. Let's see what they had to say.
In the A-Leaf area, we're waiting to learn more about the emergency hearing for 3 children who were found abandoned inside an apartment with their dead brother's remains. We've also learned that their mother and her boyfriend have been questioned as part of the investigation and are not facing any charges at this time.
What? Tell me I didn't just hear that. Please tell me I didn't just hear that. I am just blown away with this whole thing, and this just happened. I think it was just discovered yesterday. Today's Tuesday, Monday. Yeah, yesterday. Why isn't this world news? I have no idea. I'm going to stay on this case. They wouldn't let me stream live. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm just making a premiere. Go check out 10 to Life. I'll drop a link in the description of the video so you guys can go check out her channel. Tell her I said, yeah, whatever. If you're subscribed to her, good for you. She covers a lot of cool stuff too. Anyway, this is nuts. And there's so much happening right now. I'm just disgusted. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Appreciate you guys. All my old subscribers that are coming back. Thank you guys too. And yeah, I'm out here. So please share these videos. I gotta get myself somewhat back to where I was so we can get the real facts and the proof out. And you know what? We got to stop what's happening to our children. This is disgusting to me. God bless you guys. Thank you guys for everything. Hit the thumbs up button or the thumbs down button. Doesn't really matter. Interact with it. And I will see you on the next video. God bless you guys. Stay safe.